In this video, I want to go over how to add binary numbers. And if you missed the video on how to convert decimal numbers into binary numbers, go back and watch that so you know how to get your binary number. So adding binary numbers is really simple. There's just a few rules that you follow. And I'm going to actually write down some numbers to add first, and then I'll write down the rules. So let's say we're adding 1, 0, 1, 1, which is equal to 11 in decimal, and we're adding 1, 1, 0, 1, which is equal to 13 in decimal. And we can verify what these are equal to by just writing it out. So 1 times 2 to the third, because this is so this is 0, 1, 2, 3. So 1 times 2 to the third plus, and then we have a 0 times 2 squared plus 1. We have a 1 here, so 1 times 2 to the 1 plus, and then we have a 1 here, so 1 times 2 to the 0. So if you go through that math, this equals 11, or it should equal 11. And then for this one, we do the same thing. So 1 times 2 to the third plus, then we have a 1 here, so this is 1 times 2 squared plus, and then we have a 0 here, so 1 times 2 to the first plus, and then we have a 1 here, so 1 times 2 to the 0. And if we go through this math, this should equal 13. So 11 plus 13 is 24. So when we add these binary numbers together, we want to get 24, and we'll be able to verify that we get 24 once we go through the math. So there are a few rules for adding binary numbers. What we want to do is look at columns, just like in doing normal addition. So looking at the columns, if we have all zeros, which we don't in this problem, but let's say we had all zeros, we drop down a 0. If we have let's say if we have a 1 and a 0, we drop down 1. If we have 2 1s, we drop down 0, and we carry a 1. And then if we have 3 1s, we drop down a 1, and we carry a 1. So let's go over to this problem and apply these rules. So we have a 1 and a 1. So going to the rules, if we have 2 1s, we drop down a 0 and carry 1. So that means that for this first one, we have a 1 here, 0 here. So we've dropped down a 0, carried a 1. Now we have a 1 1, well, we have 1 1 0, but we have 1 1, so we carry a 1, drop down a 0. And then we have 1 1 again, so we carry a 1, drop down a 0. So we have 3 1s here, so we carry a 1, drop down a 1, and then we drop down another 1. So we can verify that this is correct by just converting this binary number into decimals. So this first spot, so this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have a 1. So we have 1 times 2 to the fourth plus, and then we have a 3 here. So 1 times 2 to the third plus, and then we have a 0 here. So that would be plus 0 times 2 squared plus, and then we have a 0 here. So 0 times 2 to the 1 plus, and then we have a 0 here, so 0 times 2 to the 0. So if we go through this math, we have 16 plus 8 is equal to 24. And just a note about bits and math. So if, for example, for this example, we assumed, like I kind of made an assumption that we had 5 bits available for our answer, but if we only had 4 bits available, and this might be a good assumption because the two numbers we're adding together are only 4 bits each, then so if we assume that we only had 4 bits available for the answer, then this bit here would have been lost, and we would have been left with this number, which actually wouldn't have been the correct answer, but since I kind of assumed that we had 5 bits available, then we got the correct answer. So, but if this bit were being cut off, that would be an example of an overflow error, and that's something you'll learn about as you go further into programming. So in the next video, I want to show you how to write negative binary numbers and how to subtract numbers.